Hour two of the program, and we've still got 2 hours in this show left, and they are action packed. So keep it locked to CJD 800. Let's start the hour, shall we? Now, in a bold legal showdown, a Mohawk tobacco distributor is taking on the Quebec government, claiming the province is trampling on Indigenous rights. After repeated seizures and hundreds of thousands of dollars in fines, Rainbow Distribution says it's had enough, arguing Quebec's tax laws violate their constitutional right to trade freely between First Nations. At stake, not just tobacco, but the very question of Indigenous sovereignty and economic freedom. Let's head over now to Robbie Dickson, businessman from Kahnawake, Mohawk Territory, and his lawyer also joins us, Julian Falconer. Mr. Dickson, Mr. Falconer, welcome to the program.
Good morning, Elias. Good morning. Nice to be on.
Great to have both of you on. I'll start with you, Mr. Dickson. This is a bold step, right? Suing the Quebec government. What was the straw that broke the camel's back? How did you end up with a legal challenge?
Well, they started to seriously affect the Rainbow Distribution business model that we've had for the past 25 years. They started to interrupt our trade network. They started to create fear with our employees, and it was affecting every part of the Rainbow Distribution business model that comes into play, not only supporting the company and our employees, but the community itself. So we had to do something about it.
So obviously none of these allegations proven in court, but I'll ask you, Mr. Falconer, here, the legal side of things here. What do you believe the Quebec government is doing here that's so egregious, so wrong, that you had to take this to court?
Well, first, I want to be clear that this is about interference with treaty rights. So this is not some speculative exercise. The courts, specifically in the last 2 years, the Quebec Superior Court has recognized in both a decision called Montour and White and a further decision called Kane, expressly in the context of tobacco trading out of Kahnawake, that there is a treaty right for First Nations to engage in trade with one another. And what's happened in this case is that despite this ruling by the courts, and despite the warning to government that they need to either appeal the rulings and reverse them successfully, the courts warned them this, or respect the rulings, the Quebec government has stepped in and sought to basically override the very treaty rights recognized in the case law recently. So I just want to emphasize that this isn't a speculative, wild test case. This is simply asking, this is the irony, the Mohawks are asking the government to respect its own colonial courts.
And Mr. Dickson, let's talk about Revenue Quebec and all this, right? And their enforcement actions. So why don't you tell our listeners just what exactly they've been doing to your business? What are the mechanisms they've been using against you?
They've been tracking our transportation division. They've been following the drivers home, having the gall to even approach them at different times, and tracking them on all of their delivery shipments that we're not hiding, that are being delivered from a Mohawk territory to another Mohawk territory, or a Mohawk territory to an Anishinaabe territory. They're simply interfering in a way that doesn't seem legal.
So what are they saying that you're doing wrong?
Well, I mean, there was a question being asked to me before. It's like, what, isn't a law a law? And I can take it. You can take this back to the 1700s. There was an alliance made at that time between the Kahnawake and the British at the time, and it was called the Covenant Chain. And again, in 1764, this chain was not only reaffirmed, but it was expanded to include other nations like the Anishinaabe and the Wyandot. And at that time, at the Treaty of Niagara in 1764, the Covenant Chain was polished, and we presented them what was symbolic to us, the two-row wampum belt, and the symbolic this two-row wampum belt symbolizes two equal paths down the river of life, two distinct yet equal paths down the river of life, and this is how everything was accepted at the time, not as an imposition of one nation over another, but as mutual respect. And this was supposed to be for time immemorial. This is supposed to be everlasting. So that's why we're fighting right now.
Mr. Dickson, as I've mentioned, right, you're a tobacco distributor. Tobacco is always contentious. You know, the number of segments I've done on this show, various aspects of tobacco in Canada. There's so many segments over the years here. I want to know, do you believe that it's that part of the business, the fact that you deal in tobacco, that has made you a target of Revenue Quebec and the Quebec government?
I believe so. I believe Revenue Quebec gets so much of their tax revenue from the cigarette industry that any form of revenue our people want to make off of it, they're considering it a loss. So that's why they're trying to stop us from doing business. Now we can go back into the 1600s, and tobacco didn't exist on the planet except for in the Americas. When the Europeans arrived and we introduced them to tobacco, they fell in love with it. It immediately was sent back to Europe and became the biggest commodity in Europe. The European kingdoms were funding the colonies to grow tobacco in the Americas and ship it back. That is why North America and South America expanded so rapidly. Without tobacco, North and South America would not be here in this state.
Let me ask you, Mr. Falconer, for this case, maybe you can continue on what Mr. Dickson was just touching upon, the tobacco aspects of this, but I also want to get into the precedent that this case could set if it succeeds. Just what are the ramifications?
Well, first of all, so we're crystal clear. The seizures of the trucks involved in this matter was trade between Kahnawake and, in one case, the Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nation, in another case, Tyendinaga Mohawk Territory, Watak Mohawk Territory, and finally, Listagouge Mi'kmaq First Nation. So we're crystal clear. This is trade between the First Nations that Revenue Quebec is disrupting and actually seizing trucks. So this isn't some wild kitchen sink effort to sell tobacco everywhere. This is trade between First Nations. Secondly, I need you to appreciate, and by your questions, I think you do, but I need you to appreciate that the court has already admonished the Canada for doing exactly what now Quebec is doing.
Oh.
The court, this is a quote from the court, from the Superior Court in a judgment called Kane that was handed out just last December. The court is not aware of any rule under which a losing party in a dispute, because Canada lost and the treaty right of Kahnawake to trade in tobacco was recognized by the court, is not aware of any rule in which a losing party in a dispute can automatically suspend the effect of a judgment by lodging an appeal. Right? And the court was clear that the treaty recognition that took place in the context of Kahnawake trading tobacco was to be respected. And I say the mere fact that Quebec wasn't a party in that case and isn't a party in this case doesn't allow it to bypass a clear recognition of the treaty right to trade. For too many decades, if not centuries, the criticism against Indigenous people has been, well, why are you living basically off the government and you're not paying taxes? Here you have a situation where Indigenous people are engaging in enterprise between themselves, are actually providing jobs for people, and in a situation supported by their leadership of their communities, and the government is seizing trucks. It makes no sense.
It sort of seems to me you don't need to seek precedent because the precedent has been set in that previous case.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Listen, gentlemen, I have to leave it there. It is a fascinating case, and I thank the both of you for coming on and shedding light on it with our listeners. I appreciate it.
Elias, thank you very much for having us this morning.
Take care. Thanks so much. That's Robbie Dickson, businessman from Kahnawake Mohawk Territory, and his lawyer, Julian Falconer.
I'm Dylan Playfair.
And I'm Tyler Smith.
We're putting loneliness in the penalty box by talking to some of our favorite athletes about the importance of friendship.
This is Bromance.
Bromance is brought to you by Charm Diamond Centers, proudly Canadian-owned and operated. Charm has been part of your love stories and bromances for over 50 years. And you can find Bromance on the iHeartRadio network or wherever you get your podcasts.